Hi, this is Kristen at Running Shoes Guru, and today we're going to take a look at the ASICS GT-2000. The GT-2000 sits right in the middle of the ASICS stability lineup. You've got the Kayano, which is the brand's flagship model. It gets all the latest upgrades and the best technology. The ASICS GT-2000, which is a moderate stability trainer. It's also a great shoe for those who are neutral runners. It offers a touch of stability and has a good amount of new technology and upgrades made to it. The Kayano runs about $180 while the GT-2000 is up $10 from last year at $130 There have been a lot of upgrades to the GT-2000 in the last 2 years with a completely revamped midsole in the 10. First, I want to talk about my experience with the shoe. I took it out of the box and I expected it to be heavier than it felt. If you look at it, it has a bit of that traditional look, and I was surprised by how light it felt. In my first run in the shoe, it felt flat. It really did. But I did not experience that on any of my subsequent runs. I would say it has a moderate ride, a moderate bounce back. And the more I ran in it, sometimes I ran in it next to my last GT-2000, which was the GT-2007. First, the upper has changed. I always have loved the ASICS upper because it would always come a little wider in the forefoot and narrow slightly to the heel. In the GT-2010, I noticed right away that it was a bit more narrow right here in the forefoot, at the ball of the foot. It looks like it's going to be the same type of fit, but when I line up the midsoles, you can see even that the cut of the GT-2010 is a bit narrower in here. The upper material comes in, whereas on the older cut, it stays out to match the outsole. The outsole is the same size in the two shoes. The upper fit is just more narrow. I also noticed when I moved back to the heel of the shoe that there was a little bit more room behind my heel and the interior of the shoe. So if you look at the old style in the 2007, it goes more of a straight down fit than in the 10. And to me, that gives me a slight bit of space in the shoe, which is not comfortable. But I did find that if I heel locked the laces, if you tie an extra loop between these top two and then send the strings through before tying, it helps to cinch up that fit and it removed most of that extra space. A big change to the upper is that it is now an engineered knit. It's now a knit, replacing the older mesh. It was meshed up through the 2009, and I noticed that the upper is also simplified. There are fewer layers, but I did not notice a decrease in quality. So the fewer layers are going to lighten up the shoe a bit, as I noted, but it's still a pretty quality shoe. The upper fits more snugly at the ball of the foot, which did relax for me by about 50 miles on the shoe. So I didn't notice it right away walking around in the shoe. I noticed that it was more snug, but it didn't cause discomfort until I tried wearing the shoe as I was driving to the gym a little bit, and I noticed that it got a bit uncomfortable. But again, after that 50 miles, that extra snugness went away. So it did adapt. It's a little bit more stretchy, perhaps, but still stable in its hold of my foot. The upper continues to have a plush fit around the ankle opening. That's similar to how it's been in the past. It also has a solid heel counter. That is a necessity for a quality stability shoe, to have a heel counter that really stops that excess motion of the heel. So that is a big plus in this new upper. Now, as we move to the outsole, this is what everyone's waiting for because there are a lot of changes in the 10. First, I'll stick with some similarities. It still has gel in the heel and the forefoot to help with shock attenuation. The foam, the major foam in the midsole has changed from flight foam to flight foam propel. And that is a huge plus to me because I was never impressed with the regular flight foam. Now, the big changes to this midsole and outsole. You see that there's light truss running along the medial aspect of the GT-2010. The light truss replaces two aspects of the GT-2000. It replaces the old Duo Max foam, which was a thicker foam, two densities, that would run along the medial side of the shoe, and that would help to combat pressure from any overpronation. The light truss functions similar to the old Duo Max. It also replaces what we've all become familiar with in ASICS shoes, which is the trussic system. This has been a standard in ASICS stability shoes for as long as I've been running in them, which is in the Kayanos from back in the late 90s. Instead of this trussic system in the shoe, now the light truss is replacing that function of holding that midfoot stiff. Now what I notice is that here in the 2007, if I really put pressure, I can get a little bit of a bend. So now moving to the new model, to the 10, if I put pressure, I can still get some of that bend in the shoe. It does hold it pretty stiff though. But because of that bend and because there is a little bit more twisting, there's a little bit less torsion control when I twist the shoe, I don't recommend it for heavier runners needing solid stability. Moving to the outsole, we've got the AHAR Plus rubber, carbon rubber in the heel, which is gonna it's gonna be more durable for a heel strike. And we have the regular AHAR rubber that we're used to in these ASICS, so something stayed the same, into the forefoot. Another thing that you will notice if you're familiar with ASICS shoes is that there's no longer a strong guidance line in the shoe. And that actually, this is the guidance line in the 7. It's a very strong guidance line. It would attenuate the pressure if you land and you're rolling into pronation on the shoe, it would limit those forces from transferring across the shoe. Now what I noticed in the 2008 and 2009, there was still an indent here. There was an indent in the shoe that was still called a guidance line, but it wasn't as strong as it was in the 7 and in prior models. What you have here instead, there's a little bit of a separation between the outsole pads, but there's no actual guidance line anymore cutting through the shoe. The older models of GT-2000 and the 2010, when I put the outsoles next to each other, they line up. The thing that is important to know though is that there's a little bit more length, just slightly more length to the 10. So you're gonna get a slightly longer shoe. I don't know, it might be about a quarter of a size longer, but it is longer. So if that's something that's important to you in deciding your size, know that it is slightly longer. Overall, I find the GT-2010 to be a comfortable, smooth ride and a great all-around trainer. It's not gonna be your speed-specific shoe. It's not gonna be a shoe that you purchase purposely for lots of long-distance runs, but it is a great shoe if you want a quality shoe that can hit the gamut of workouts that you're going to throw at it. Be sure to read the written review on runningshoesguru.com for more information. There's so much about this shoe and I haven't touched on it all. But if you like this review, please hit like and subscribe so you can get more of these awesome reviews from runners just like you.